title the Wabash. How I long for my Indiana home.
And now for the most famous words in motorsports.
Driver, start your engine!
Right on the tail of Marco Andretti! Can a teenager win in Indianapolis? Here's the finish. Sam Hornish Jr. makes the pass. He'll win it. Sam Hornish Jr.
It's not a tour de force. It's a tour de pin.
I don't know what it is. Danny Sullivan gets him. Danny Sullivan gets him down. No, he's swirling. No, he's spinning. Danny Sullivan spins. But he goes around twice and gathers it in.
Absolutely incredible. Danny Sullivan headed for victory lane in Indianapolis.
Clark twin checkered flag in the air. It's a battle at the start-finish line. And Joseph Newgarden will win the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Davey Hamilton, he finally gets the buggy off him, but the pass makes it stick. Joseph Newgarden goes back-to-back, wins the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to make this episode very short and sweet because I will be honest, I did not watch much of today's practice. The only information that I did get on today's practice was actually from David Land and then from the Indianapolis Star. But I also watched a little bit of the practice today, and I'm not saying that I didn't watch it. I actually did. I watched it, but the weather delays were a lot, and there was a lot of rain, especially in the southern half of the state. And, of course, it was a very interesting practice, to say the least. And welcome to the Indianapolis 500 podcast, a Borg Warner production. My name is Braden Bear-Lents, and you can follow us on anywhere you get your social medias, ontheedge.com, which is where we actually premiere these episodes. We're going to upload the first 11 episodes on there to the website. I forgot to do that. And of course, please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Bear-Lents 98.5 WBRA. And so that's where you can find all the content related to our podcast and follow us throughout the Indianapolis 500. This, of course, is sources related. It's not really much journalism. We are going to be talking to Luke Leahy on May 20th, so a week from yesterday. And so if you have any questions for him, please leave those in an email. You can email me at braydonlents09@gmail.com. Again, that is BRAYDYNLENTS09@gmail.com. Or go to my Twitter page, at LentsBraydon. So, LENTSBRAYDYN. So, to be quite honest with you, through the limited practice that I saw as I was picking out weeds and trying to work on the yard, was that once the practice was running, I was watching a little bit of it, and then rain fell. Of course, it was weird weather-wise, and it will be throughout the rest of the weekend, as tomorrow, Thursday, will be rain-soaked, and Friday will be very rain-soaked, especially in the southern region. Thunderstorms included. It could get really bad on Friday in the south, and on Thursday it could get really bad for the people at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So of course it's a huge deal to try and take cover, know your safety tips, especially at the Speedway. There are storm shelters at the Speedway, of course, because if there wasn't storm shelters, I don't think there would be a lot of places to hide. And so last year, that was a big thing, was rain did fall. And a lot of rain fell. And so, especially on race day, like I mentioned yesterday, it was really, really bad when you're considering how the practices were and the race was that day. It got really bad really quickly. And the worst part about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is that there are some limited places to go for storm shelters, but there legitimately are shelters at the track. And so, of course, it is very common to see the weather this time of year be really off the hinges. And so it's going to be a really interesting weekend in terms of that. It won't let up until probably Saturday or Sunday, which will be pole day and bump day at the 500. Of course, when practice restarted at 6:15, Alex Palou, once again, just like the success he had at the road course race, led the actual laps with a time of 227.546 miles an hour and was 2 miles an hour faster than Will Power. Then it was Helio Castroneves, Felix Rosenquist, Kyle Larson, and Colton Herta that actually had over 100 laps. But in total, everybody had about 2,555 laps ran today for a 5 hour and 7 minute period. Of course, there was rain all throughout the afternoon. Practice didn't actually restart again until 5:30 the second time and 4:45 the first time. There was a lot of rain at 3:50, and so practice had to be called off for what was almost an hour, waiting to see whether or not the practice were going to run again. But as the day was going on, there were crashes and some crashes throughout the day. And then I forgot to mention that there was rain early on in the morning. So in reality, there really wasn't any practice in the morning hours, but there was practice in the afternoon around 1:35. So for further clarification, 1:35, 4:45, and 6:15 were the times they restarted practice today. And then 1:35, according to many sources, 1:35, then you had practice resume again at 4:45, so about 3 hours later, and then practice resume again at 6:15. And so it was very interesting weather-wise to see how the race was. And there were some interesting moments from this. But I will say that there were a few accidents in the day, which were pretty interesting. Santino Ferrucci was definitely not lucky today. I didn't think he was lucky at all with the fact that he had to run with a really bad car, and he ran into mechanical issues early on in the day. That was pretty big. And then for him. And then I don't know who on earth is going to basically be the potential pole sitter going into the 500, which is something that we're all keeping our eyes and ears on. And if we don't keep our eyes and ears on it, then it will be a problem. But I will also say that there were interesting storylines, but the big one today, besides the rain, was Alex Palou leading practice once again at the Indianapolis 500. And of course, like I mentioned, there were a lot of rain. There was a lot of rain, I should say. And with this being the third straight practice, it was a really big issue. And so many people, including Marcus Ericsson, had a pretty good day today as well. But I will say that all the time was limited on a lot of these drivers today. And yes, I know I've been talking about the rain a lot, but the rain was the story of the day. It was the big story of the day, besides, of course, Alex Palou taking the first position. And why there's no results from today was, again, the rain. But I will tell you that, actually, to further clarify, my notes were wrong. There were actually no on-track incidents, and the only yellow flags that were out today were weather interruptions or track inspections. So that was it. My bad on the crashes. One source that I wrote down earlier today said that there were crashes, but in fact there really were not. There were no crashes today. So I need to clarify that again. And so the only two drivers that really didn't have top speeds today were Kyle Kirkwood and Rasmussen, along with Alexander Rossi. They all three had times under around 222 miles an hour. And not to say that's disappointing, which it absolutely was for them, especially with Ferrucci. His car was very bad today, and he finished today's practice ranked 33rd. While the pole sitter for yesterday, or three-time pole sitter, in the last few 500s, being a Carpenter, was dead last on the grid. So they for sure are going to be bump day favorites. If you want to put money down on this stuff, I'd put money down on Santino Ferrucci for sure, Kyle Kirkwood for sure, and maybe Alexander Rossi to try and get something done. Because wouldn't that be amazing if they could all get that done at the same time and try to make it into the 500? That would be awesome. That would be awesome. And so, other than that, I mean, the reason why I kept it short was that even when I wrote notes down, there really was not much to talk about from today. But Pato O'Ward expected to make a few laps in the race at the actual 500, is actually making some strides. And we really are seeing weather be a factor, and it will be a factor throughout the weekend. So it'll get interesting, very interesting weather-wise at the race. So we're going to keep you updated throughout the rest of the week. We don't come out with individual videos, and we probably will, especially on day 3 or 4, or even after pole day or bump day, but I'm just waiting for these storms to come through and get some stuff all figured out in terms of guests. That's been a big problem. But we're going to be running this podcast for a while throughout the month of May, and we're hoping to gain more success. We are getting more viewers, so thank you all for listening to the actual Indy 500 podcast. And we are not, I think we're one of the few podcasts out there related to Indy 500. There are IndyCar podcasts, but if you want to go subscribe to our podcast today, you sure can. It's one host and one host alone. I know we need more hosts, but if it's all me, I'm fine talking for over 30 minutes. I've done that before, but if you guys don't like that, just let me know. But thank you all so much for listening. I know this episode was short. We're not going to do short episodes every day, so I'm hoping that that is not going to be a problem in the near future. So thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day. Rain, go away, please. I'm tired of the rain. Goodbye, everyone. See you tomorrow.